All righty. All right, we are live. Welcome to episode 14 of BenThere. I am so pumped about today. This is going to be a treat. I've looked forward to this all week and want to make sure. I just want to get to this quickly. So I'm going to do the intro quickly, but thank you all for watching. This is BenThere, episode 14. The show obviously was off last week. It was Father's Day. I just wanted to give a late shout out to all you fathers out there. Thanks for all you do. Also hope that all you are off to a good summer start. I know the world's kind of crazy right now. Definitely crazy right now for all different reasons, but I do hope everybody's off to a good summer start. This show, it's a simple concept. It's about people. That's why I ended up doing this. That's why you guys have been watching, and I really appreciate that. A lot of these guests are people that I know. Some are people I don't know, but everybody's got a story, and that's kind of what we're sticking with. And I just truly appreciate everybody that's watching, you know, whether they're a third culture kid or not. I just truly appreciate everybody watching. Before I go any further and introduce our guest today, I just want to make sure that everybody knows they can interact with the show as well. So if you're on Facebook or whatever you're watching on the YouTube channel, please make sure you interact with us today. We kind of feed off of that. So whatever you guys want to write and you know, please interact with us. I guess that's what I'm saying. Also make sure, especially on YouTube, that you subscribe to the channel. These have been fantastic in terms of views and all that. It's boggles my mind every time I do this, but I appreciate y'all watching. But I truly want to get to this guest today because, as I wrote in the little bio, he is a TCK. He is an Army veteran, and let's be honest, he's an all-around badass. I can't wait to get into this today. So my guest today definitely has a story to tell, and I'm so excited about this one. So much respect for this guy. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. I want to make sure everybody understands his bio. This one's a little bit long, and I even shrunk it down, as he knows. So let me just go ahead and read this before we talk to you, Mark. But our guest today is Sergeant J. Mark Soteroff. He was born in Toronto, Canada in 1973. Sergeant Mark Soteroff grew up in a very suburban area until he was about 15. After his dad received a civilian company posting in Taipei, Taiwan, Sergeant Soteroff spent grades 11 and 12 at Taipei American School, to which he admits were some of the best years of his life. Leaving Taiwan was very difficult for Sergeant Soteroff, as he left behind great friends and a girlfriend that was heading back to Paris. Like many at 17, he was not equipped to deal with that type of change. He went to college for about 2 years, but confesses to having no interest in school. Eventually, falling in with a bad crowd, Sergeant Soteroff came very close to spending a good amount of time in jail. He straightened out, started working, and using his salesmanship skills, managed to work out a deal at a deal and trade for a gym membership next door to his job. After a year of training and working out and following in the footsteps of several family members, he decided to join the Army. Initially joining a reserve infantry regiment in Toronto called the Royal Regiment of Canada, Sergeant Soteroff excelled in the military life and decided to switch from reserve status to full-time status. He taught basic training, career courses, and machine gun courses and loved every minute. Volunteering services on a roto during the Afghanistan War, Sergeant Soteroff had also reconnected with a former girlfriend. In his words, at that moment in time, life seemed perfect. All that changed on the 14th of June, 2010, as his platoon was ambushed and on route summit between FOB Wilson and Masum, Ghar. I'm going to let you explain that in a little bit, Mark. Afghanistan, severely injured with an RPG shredding through the fuel tank of the armored vehicle he was using for cover. He sustained significant injuries to his face, neck, and hip. In addition, his right arm was nearly severed, as were several of his fingers on his left hand. Medevacked to Bagram and then to Landstuhl, Germany. Sergeant Soteroff believes most of his left hand remains intact today, with the luck that a fantastic hand surgeon happened to be passing through Bagram. While those injuries ended his infantry career, Sergeant Soteroff remained in the military. Remarkably, fitness became a huge part of his recovery, both physically and mentally, so much so that in just a few years, he went from a logistics job to being accepted into a specialized unit. He shined with that unit and treasured every minute of it. Today, Sergeant Soteroff works with members of the Canadian Forces and the RCMP who suffer from PTSD. Having been diagnosed with OSI, TBI, PTSD a few years earlier, his job now is to help those who suffer from the same scars. Sergeant Soteroff lives in a very peaceful small town in Ottawa Valley near Canada's capital with his beautiful wife and 8-year-old daughter, who he admits is growing up way too fast. Yeah. With many family members also living in the area, he sits on the board of his town's gun club and owns a small portion of the local gym. While missing the desert and the excitement of his military days, Sergeant Soteroff believes it is time to be home for birthdays and anniversaries and enjoy the peace and calm of small town life. Welcome to the show, Sergeant Mark Soteroff. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No worries. Usually this show is, well, not usually, it always is. It's about TCK's Third Culture Kids, which you are definitely a part of that community. I want to talk about that. We're going to jump right into it. But honestly, man, I wanted you on the show. I've wanted you on the show for months, since we basically started the show. I want to get into your story. Your story starts, as far as I'm concerned, being a TCK, because that's kind of how I know you. You and I, I was a little brother to your one of your best friends, my brother Jason, in the Taipei days. But yeah, so let's get into it, man. So let's talk about TCK wise. What, we talked briefly about your dad's company, kind of similar to my story and similar to Jason's story. My brother, they just got reposted overseas. That's basically what it came down to. It was a civilian job in a business world. We're business brats, right? Technically speaking. That's how you ended up overseas. You ended up in Taipei, Taiwan for 11th and 12th grade. Went to Taipei American School, as did myself and my brother. Talk about your experience. I mean, if you can remember back to that time that you're landing in Taiwan, man, from Canada. You described yourself as a skinny, awkward kid, which is kind of funny because that's how I remember you, but not the awkward part. I do remember you being skinny and tall, and I was always terrified of you as a little brother to my brother's friends. But I also respected the hell out of you. So let's kind of step back to go forward. Let's talk about your experience first off as a TCK. What do you remember about moving to Taipei?
Well, it was unlike a lot of the other people that we had met there. This was our first time ever going anywhere. Like, I'd been nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, I mean nowhere. I think we've been to Disney before that trip to Buffalo. Like, I wasn't exactly worldly. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I remember my old man came home and family dinner, and he said, "All right, guys, we got to talk." And he said, "Look, I got a job overseas in Taiwan." And I went, "Where? Thailand? Where?" This is also before the internet. So
yeah, way before, yeah.
So you had to go get like an atlas and have a look. So which I think we did at the kitchen table. We had an atlas with it.
Yeah.
So he said you can either go to boarding school or you can come with us. And my sister was on her way to university, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
So I went, yeah, I'll come. Like, it was. I don't think there was any real plan for me boarding, so I was coming anyway. But
Yeah.
It's of a choice, right? And
yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, I had never been anywhere. And
hey, let me cut you off real quickly. I just got a text saying that it's a little bit hard to hear you. So I don't know if there's a microphone near you, or maybe you can move closer. Just want to make there we go. I just want to make sure everybody hears your story. So go ahead, man.
If you get that again, maybe we'll put the headset on.
Right? Okay. But, okay. I'll see if this works better. But keep talking. Let's keep talking.
So we moved over there. I had, like I said, I'd been nowhere, and I remember, like I said, I wasn't a very outgoing, popular kid. I was weird. I was that adventurous, weird in my own way, kind of, if any chance I had to do Outward Bound or your version of like Eagle Scouts, that kind of stuff, I loved.
Yeah.
As far as mingling with other people, I was very shy. I was very reserved. But as soon as I got to Taiwan, I met Jason, Leif, Kim, Tina, all those people, Nick, and I actually remember still the first night we went out and we were allowed to stay out late because there was really what trouble could we get into? And, what trouble we got in. But,
yeah, I do.
Many phone calls from the police later. But before that, I remember, the guys were saying, like I said, I had to be home at a certain time, and they said,
right.
"Man, don't go." And it was the first time I actually had friends that said, they wanted to hang out. And I never forgot that. That meant a lot. And those guys are still friends of mine today. And so it was a big culture shock. But then going to TAS and being immersed in American culture. And the first thing everybody would ask me is, "What state are you from?" And I said, "No, I'm from Canada." And then they told me I had an accent. And I had no idea. They're like, "You say oot in a boot." I was oblivious to any of this stuff, right? And it was different. But then by the time it was time to leave, I was so set in that culture of us, everything that we did, that I actually had a hard time coming back to Canada, and I couldn't relate to people.
Hmm.
I had no.
We're going to talk about your acclimation back to Canada. So yeah, just talk about keep going about Taipei and TAS and whatnot. So
Yeah, so it was. You want me? Sorry, you want me to talk about come back to Canada now or wait?
No, we're gonna wait. That's one of my questions in just a minute. So I just because your story and what you talked about then, I want to make sure we get all that. So
It was always told people, when you come home for Christmas, you're talking to old friends, you're like, what's it like over there? What's hot,
Mhm.
I said, my best friend's from Boise, Idaho, and
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
and my girlfriend's from Paris.
Hmm.
Like it's like people that first of all, okay, and yeah, man, it was very weird, and I remember being told when we got there by the counselor that when it's time to leave, it's very difficult for expats because you're just gone. And it was no different. My girlfriend was Christelle Pagnol, and it was literally 2 days after grad. Take
Yeah.
care. It's been great. Like how do you deal with that at 17? There's no chance that I'm going to Paris. Like I'm going back to Toronto. I'm going back or Canada. I'm going back to college, that kind of thing, and she's going to carry on with her life. That's how it is. And that wasn't a unique story at all.
Oh,
Everybody
I
was
had the
like,
same, very similar experience. So I totally understand that. So.
and same with all your friends. And this is before Facebook, and so
Hmm.
when that came around, that was a major reconnection. But it was tough. It was you lived the good life over there. Like we had the American Club.
Yeah.
Parents had drivers. Um, we ate well. We partied well. We were in very safe, secure environment for the most part.
Yeah.
And it was very different. You come back to Toronto's a very rough. Part of it is very rough, and to be sort of dumped back into that was weird. But for 2 years, living the good life as an expat, and really having no worries except for showing up to school every day. And
Yeah.
cool. Those were like those were the best. They always say when you're like a kid, those are the best friends you ever had, and it's very true.
Yeah.
I was in the military. I never had friends like that again.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. What do you miss the most about being a TCK and just being over there?
The heat.
The heat, really? You missed that. You missed that.
We have all 4 seasons here. We're in the Ottawa
Yeah.
Valley, very wet, and when winter shows up, it just sort of shows up.
Yeah.
And it's like it's shit. Winter is shit here. There's no.
Yeah.
But I liked it, man. The tropics. I loved the fact that we could go to Yamishan, just adventure. We go on hikes. All the times we rode bikes this way, that way. It was just everything about it was just like we were spoiled. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
nobody was rich, but like
No.
we were spoiled. We had everything at our disposal. Anything we wanted was cheaper. Remember Taiwan beer? That
Yeah. Hell yeah.
beer that was like a buck.
Yeah.
There was no drinking age, so your parents.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was no drugs. Like they
Yeah.
shot you for that over there. So like
Yeah.
that was never an issue. We didn't have those issues that they have in North America or wherever that kids are doing blow or whatever and like fentanyl, pops. We just had booze. Like we were just booze hounds. That was.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I remember going into my first bar was in 8th grade. I mean, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that just is what it was back in the day, back at the time. So
I remember going to lunch with Kim at Mary's, the burger joint.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And Kim could always handle it, and I would be like I'd always be sleepy in the afternoon because like one giant beer kind of
It'll get you. Yeah, you got to be careful.
People were pounding them back like nothing,
Yeah.
You tell me at like 15, 16 years old, you can't shrug off a hangover like it's nothing.
That's awesome, man. Have you ever gone back to Asia since you left? Have you been back to Taipei at all? Or?
My parents were there for a couple years after. So I think like 2 or 3 years I came back as alumni.
Okay.
And just sort of hung out and stuff. And
yeah, talk about that because I mean I did the same thing. My brother did the same thing. But talk about that. It's always kind of a mixed. It's bittersweet, right?
It is bittersweet. It was fun to sort of go around and see everybody. But the third year I went back, there was no friends left that I really knew very well.
Okay.
If the other kids, if the other people didn't show up to see their families, it was kind of nothing to do.
Yeah.
It was a little. The first year was like amazing. Coming back at Christmas, it was a huge reunion. Hadn't seen each other in a bit, and everybody, it's still fresh. The second
Yeah.
one coming back was a little bit less, and then the third one, I didn't know who anybody was. I remember the broad came up to me and said, like, "Oh my God, hi, I haven't seen you." And you're flubbing it, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, great to see you. Fucking clue who you are. So,
Do you know who she was? Like now, do you look back and remember who she was or no?
I figured it out, but I actually don't remember really knowing her very well.
Was she in your grade?
No, it was like
No.
Yeah, actually, there was someone that actually came up to me in my grade, and this is embarrassing. This still happens in your life, right? I had no clue who she was, and like big huge hug, and Mark, how are you? And I'm like, super. How are you? I went 2 years of high school. She graduated from her class, and 2 years of high school without ever even like looking at a glance at this person. But they knew exactly who all of it, and apparently they were in our friend group.
Oh yeah.
It happens. It's embarrassing when that happens, but
it happens. It definitely happens because I can relate to that. I get emails still to this day. I get emails or on Facebook specifically. Like, I got nothing. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're a TAS person, but I got nothing. Hey, it's truly not trying to bug you, man, but lean a little bit closer because I've just now gotten two messages saying they can barely hear you a little bit. So,
do you want to try that?
Yeah, if you want, that'd probably be better because it's got a built-in mic, and that might do the job better. So
we have the technology.
Yeah, right. So no, I can totally. Let me know when you're good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah, that's probably better. Yeah, we'll see if I get any text messages. My brother actually wrote saying he could barely hear you, so we'll have to give. Yeah. We'll have to get. I was gonna say we'll have to give him crap later, but let's just give him crap now, right? So this is for you, Jay. That's it. It's all good. Let's. No, it's it's funny because I can totally relate to what you were saying. Specifically, going back, it was always bittersweet. Like it was always one of those things that you couldn't wait to get to, and yet there was a little pinch of disappointment when you got there too. And it sounds like it was more when you third year back because my parents lived there. Jason's parents lived there 2 more years after I graduated. We go back at Christmas. My best friend, you remember Tim Wenger?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he came back with us a couple Christmases, and life was good, man. But that third year back, it's funny you say that about the third year because it was always seemed to be that third year back was always kind of like I got nothing now. Like I don't remember anybody. So.
And it was funny with you and Tim Wenger when I
read
on Facebook with you guys. You're 2 of the people that I went. Could you friggin' age like the rest?
He does.
He's like this
and his
kid with like kids. And
yeah.
Like a hot wife. Like.
Yeah. No, it's totally that's right. It's funny because his son looks like a mini me. He looks exactly like we knew him as Timmy back in the day. That's his son looks like the Timmy Wenger that we used to know. But I'll attribute it to I'd say clean living, but like I told you before we went live, this isn't water, so it's good Irish genes, I guess. Yeah, exactly. Good Irish genes, man. I guess that's all I have to say about that. But
I got in a fight with Tim once in school.
Really? Please tell. I want to hear this story. Let's go.
I don't think either of us remember what happened, but it was like just some stupid guy. Would you say? He shoved me. I shoved him. I'm like, Tim's a grade behind me, right? But like, I was a skinny kid. Like, and Jackie Boots got full of it and went like the mother at the 2 of us. I don't think it was a stupid boys fight, whatever. And then that Penny chick, remember the fucking
the blonde hair, the secretary. Yeah.
Secretary of Vice President, whatever authority she held.
Yeah.
Stomping down the hallway.
She had none, by the way, but she thought she did. But go ahead. So.
Yeah. And then she hauled us to the principal's office, made this huge deal of it. The principal came out and went, "What the fuck?" And like, I had already been like, "We're fine," like, whatever. And they sent us home, like a cool down period. This is 1989 or something,
okay.
Yeah, the cool down period, and then we got in. I don't know about Tim, but I got in so much shit, like for fighting, and the fact that it was like a family friend was worse, right? So my mom went apoplectic. Oh, you're fine. Dad walked home. Did you win? It was Tim. Yeah, like yeah. He goes, "Did you apologize?" Yes. Like, "We're good."
That's so funny. Was that the new school?
Yeah, I never went to the old school. The old school was break into it and swim. Which was
well, it's now the European school, so I just want to let you know. So yeah.
Roman
Yeah.
And Jason and all those guys said, "Are you up for something tonight?" One of my first weeks there, and they took me to the remember that hydro tower?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so we had it like, we had like a little thing up there with beer and whatever. And they
Yeah.
said, "We're gonna break in," and Roman jumped the fence first, checked for the guard, went all the way to the front where the commissionaire was, and like,
Yeah.
and we like just in the pool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then
Oh,
your brother
that's
hit me in the face with a fire extinguisher.
that sounds about right. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome, man. No, that's great. I love those stories because I can totally picture where exactly you guys were. Well, if you remember, I don't know if you watched. We had Alex on earlier, couple episodes ago, and he talked about that tower, that power tower too, that you guys used to go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That you guys used to go to. So that's I love it. I love it, man. This is childhood memories at its peak. So, I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on the Tim Wenger getting in a fight with you story.
So. It was the skinny, like,
Yeah. No. That's how I remember you. Just so everybody watching knows, when I met Mark, I mean, I'm a pretty tall guy. I'm 6'2". But I remember being in high school. Even I was pretty much 6'2" at this height, in my 10th grade year, and I haven't grown since. But I remember you were the one guy that was taller than me. And I always remember being totally intimidated, even though you were that skinny bean pole, right? Like not what we're seeing right here. But
that was my nickname, Bone Rack.
Well, I remember seeing you at James Gunn's house. Remember James Gunn?
Yeah, I remember James.
Yeah, another Canadian, right? There you go. So, but yeah, Tim and I were like, bread and butter. We were always together. So I remember seeing you a lot of times at James's house, but obviously with my brother and even staying the night at our house and whatnot. So, but you were always the guy. Intimidated is probably not the right word. I was just always like in awe of you because you were the one guy that was taller than me, right? So it's like I didn't know how to act because, like, wait, you're not supposed to be taller than me. Yeah.
Funny. They had my dad took me to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Because every 3 months you have to do your, I don't know if you guys,
yeah.
we have to go do our visas like every 3 months.
Yeah.
Get like a weekend in Hong Kong, right? And for like a $50 flight.
Yeah.
He took me to have a suit made, and the guy said, "Oh, this is so easy." He's a bone rack. And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Oh, he's like, the thing just hangs off him. He's like a hanger, so he doesn't do anything. Just make the thing straight."
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I was skinny for a lot of years, and I mean, I got the shit kicked out of me every day on the way to school as a kid. And
before moving overseas, I'm assuming, yeah.
Even when I came back for years, I was
really
a tiny kid, and we'll get into that later. We talk about the thing or whatever. But I just decided one day I didn't want to be a skinny kid anymore. I was like 20 something.
Well, you're definitely not skinny anymore. You don't have to worry about that, man. So it's we'll definitely talk about that in a second. So let me. Yeah, totally. Because I want to hear all about that. We've got plenty of time. I want to hear everything. So, what advice? Usually, I always ask this question, but what advice would you give anybody that's either currently overseas as a TCK or finding out today or maybe this summer that guess what, kids, we're moving overseas? What kind of advice would you give them?
I have a different background now. My first thought was stay off social media.
Yeah.
Different job. Anyway, I don't know, man. The thing is, like, I wouldn't know how to relate to them now. They're so far removed. Again, they have the internet, social media. I don't know. It's a whole different world. Like, that's trying to tell kids now how to teach them how to do math. The math is all different. And that would be very difficult. They have a whole other set of issues to deal with than we did, because we were very just, like I said, show up, go to school.
Yeah.
There wasn't really any other distractions. I'm going to be honest. My thing is I default to kids overseas for security, just to be careful on what they post, what they show, where they are.
Yeah.
It's very, as soon as you go overseas and change your keyboard to English, you're flagged, right? So I would say for kids that are traveling abroad, be mindful of what you're saying, what you're posting, locations. So you know what I mean, like that. But that's my head. I would probably tell that to my kid. Like, don't ever say to your friend, "I'm going to meet you at Mary's at 1 p.m."
Yeah.
A cell phone, because it's how you go missing. So,
that's a good point. We never had to worry about that shit, right? Yeah. So we never had to worry about that.
Well, most we had was a tough cab driver that did, there's a world out there within. They keep an eye on expats, and that's something to be pretty cautious of. And I don't know. I'm again, because of my background, my last background, I'm pretty hyper vigilant on that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's relevant for Taiwan.
No, solely right now, especially, man. I was overseas for a couple of years ago, and I definitely would agree with that. It's a different world than what you and I were in, and my brother was in, and Tim Wanger was in. We had no. I'm so glad, right? Like at the time period that we were there, it was just perfect timing. Nowadays,
Pre 9/11.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Like a decade before.
I mean, how many times did we just sort of not come home or whatever, like, you know, or show up the next day and like one of your parents is on the couch going, "Where you been?" The default Uncle Jason.
Yeah.
Shaky finger blade. So,
yep.
But, if you ask Jason, I don't know if he remembers this. My mom, every time Jason came over, Jason like right, crazy for milk. So, and my mom always had a glass of milk for him because we generally remember I lived closer, right? So we walked to my house and then fucking beat him out to wherever the fuck we were going. And my mom always had a glass of milk ready for Jason. And there was one time she poured it, and he never thought of it. We just tanked it. Hey, Miss Iron, off it went. And the milk had gone so fucking bad. You could smell it, and it was like giant clumps. And he went, "Thank you, Mrs. Soteroff," and he took it, and like half the thing went downrange, and then he's like, he's got to puke now, right?
Yeah,
so yeah. He's in someone else's house. Yeah. Looking for something to go, right? And my mother's, "Oh, Jason, I'm so sorry."
That's awesome.
And it was like every time after that he came, he'd take the glass of milk and go,
yeah,
just check. It was so fun. And she was mortified. To this day, she's mortified that she served Jason Vogel's shitty milk. So,
that's. I think he's over it. So tell her she's good. It's all good.
Probably got phobia now, but
no. He still loves his milk, man. I can assure you that. He did just text though. I guess we still can't hear you perfect. I don't know if it's is your volume down on your end or.
We've been having issues with this, so no, I'm
100%. No worries. I can hear you perfect. I don't know. I guess I just the people watching right now, and this does automatically replay later. So I just want to make sure everybody can hear you.
Okay. Jason, how about now? How about now? How about now? How about now?
Let's see. He just sent another text. So if you see me looking, it's just because he's writing. There's a bunch of people watching right now too. Don't be fooled by that 4 number. There's a bunch of people on YouTube too. Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of people can't hear you too well. So.
Okay, I'll talk.
I can hear you. So I'm trying to move my mic away a little bit. Maybe that's the issue too, because my mic is connected and I can hear you super loud. But yeah, I can hear you. So let's hope that I can always, once we're done with this, I can always mess with it too and see if I can jump up the volume. But no, man, all good stories. All good stories. I was going to talk to you though. I mean, we're going to get to your daughter later and your wife later. And by the way, you did well, man. Gorgeous girls. Yeah. I don't know what the hell what you were doing right that day, but good job on everything. So we're gonna talk about that in just a little bit. My brother's telling me to turn my mic down. Is that let me know if that's better, Jay, because I can see you texting and just keep me posted. But
thank God for Jason. Thank God.
Right. Maya Crawford's watching too, so I want to give a shout out to her. So she's probably not Maya Crawford anymore. I don't know everybody's married name, so they just got to deal with my old schoolness. But that said, I want to talk about that before we move on to your second act, I guess we can say. Let's talk about your daughter. Does she understand where dad grew up? Like, does she understand that whole concept? How does that work?
The Taiwan part really never, it doesn't really come up.
Okay.
She knows I went to school overseas. She's more at this point asking questions. She's 8 years old and she's asking questions about my background, but more about Afghanistan, Iraq. She asked about Afghanistan. Who were the bad guys? Because they learned about World War II and like they know this person, that person. But she's been asking who I fought in Afghanistan, what they did, all that kind. So she's at an age where I can reason with her.
Right.
She understands if I explain it properly, and we're not giving her like war porn or anything like that. But I do talk to her about that stuff. She seems to be very interested in me specifically lately, which is great, and I'll take it right now because she's getting way too big, way too fast. So, but she's been walking around telling, they had a web thing with their teacher because, they're all off school now, right?
Yeah.
And she blurts out that, I want to be a special forces soldier.
It's awesome. That's okay.
So, yeah, it's, it makes you proud and all this, but at some point I'm going to have a conversation about war and this and that, and it's not what you think. But at 8 years old, it's all just looking cool, wearing uniforms, Call of Duty. So yeah, but
No, man, that's good.
she's asking. She's at the age where they're interested. They want to know where you come. She knows I don't
Yeah.
have a normal background, but you know,
None of us do, man. I
no,
get that. Yours is even more so. So I applaud that. We're gonna get into that. So, so usually at this point in the show, I usually ask people where they feel a connection to home. Yours is a little different story. I kind of think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you. But the concept of home, even if it's a concept,
well,
what does home mean to you, man?
well, we're at the stage now that my grandparents are all gone, and you know that thing where you have your grandparents' house in the town you grew up in, and that's that last bastion of home, right? And that's gone for us. So now home is where, and I had to make this decision when I was leaving the military that who am I, what do I do? And it's home is where my wife and my daughter and her family are, and they've moved up here. We're in a little town, Smiths Falls. It's called a tiny little place,
Mhm.
8,500 people, which is a lot for me right now. And
Yeah.
they wherever they are, that's home for us. And for a lot of years, like we moved around with the military a lot. And like Mika, my daughter, has had, I think, 6 different houses we've lived in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is home now. Home to us is where we put roots,
Mhm.
where my daughter's going to go to school, where my wife works, where my in-laws are. Everything we need is here. And we as a family discussed that when the time came to leave the unit that I was with, what were we going to do? And I know I didn't. When you leave that unit, you got to go back to what's called the conventional army, like left, right, wearing a green uniform, and you're dealing with sergeant major retardees, politics, mustache. Fuck, man, you want to go back to
Yeah.
that after that kind of freedom?
Yeah.
So we decided where we were going to stay here, no
Okay.
matter what. So home is wherever. I know it sounds cheesy, but home is wherever we are, and that's it. I can't imagine anything else.
Well, first off, it doesn't sound cheesy because as someone who struggled with that his entire life,
Yeah,
now that I'm married, yeah, now that I mean, Utah has never been, and Jason will agree with this, I think, but Utah's never technically been home, and yet we have a deep connection here. My wife's from here. Currently, I'm here. My mom's here.
yeah,
Uh, is it home? It is right now because that's where my wife is. My home is where my wife is.
yeah,
Period. So I totally understand what you're saying, man. So but that's such a tricky. The reason I always ask that question is it's such a tricky topic. Even though you were overseas for 2 years as a kid, it changes you, man.
yeah.
It definitely changes your background and it makes you rethink things. What you thought was what it ends up being. Either way. But like Asia, even though you're only there 2 years, I mean that's a part of you. I don't think that
Yeah.
ever goes away.
Well, I
So
was talking to like years ago. I was talking to Tina Chung about this. Like we connected, and
by the way, great people right there. I know Tina a little bit.
yeah,
You know way better than I do, but she's great people. So go ahead.
we reconnected and we were hitting it off pretty good and talking away.
Yeah.
We got on a topic about like Tina especially cannot sit still. She's in the place, right? And
Yeah.
we were talking about like why is that? And I did that for years after after Taiwan. I moved like every year. I moved this job, that job, and it's that expat thing that you just can't. Um, oh, can't hear Mark. Crap.
Oh, I think that was an old one, so I think they're good. My brother just said he can hear you now, so we're
Okay,
good.
cool. But it's an expat thing that we get this bug that we can't sit still
Hmm.
because we've been moving and moving and moving, and even like how many people competed in IASIS
Right.
and were the year before competing for Jakarta or like
Yeah.
Hong Kong or whatever. So your parents moved, you moved, and then how do we sit still? That's in our
Hmm.
blood now, and I found that very difficult coming home to want to sit still because why would I? Like that's boring. I don't want to go to the same place every day. And like, not to fast forward, but I work with members with PTSD, and they always say, "I want to be normal again." And my bring back to them is, "You were never fucking normal, dude. You
Yeah.
chose to jump out of airplanes and
Yeah.
helicopters for a living, or rescue people in the ocean out of a helicopter. You were never normal. You-
Yeah.
so
Totally.
that's not us. That's not who we are."
That's no, I back that up 100%. Whether, yeah, whether it's military life or just being exposed to the international life, man, you're never really normal.
Where's the
And
next one?
that's
What's the next adventure?
yeah, I mean, I get the itch, and that's one of my last questions regarding TCKs. I mean, it's do you still, I mean, even though you're so far removed now, but it's still a part of you, do you still have that itch to travel, to explore?
Well,
Not military wise, but just
yeah,
like go somewhere.
it's both because the experience with being abroad as a
Hmm.
kid put that bug in my brain that like sitting still doesn't have to be. And when you're
Yeah.
like, there's times where I get offered a contract or posting or something, and it's somewhere or whatever, or a tour or something. You know, you want to go do this. The answer is like right away. Like, first of all,
Yeah.
I asked my wife, like, what do you think of it? She's like, yeah, go. Like, yeah, yeah, go. But you're gone for 3 months. Bye. Great. Spread out in the middle of the bed. Like, it's no
The
problem.
secret to a happy marriage, brother.
The secret to the happy marriage. So
Yeah.
it's an immediate yes. I
Yeah.
want to go. I want to go do these things, and that
Yeah.
started from going to TAS and getting that
Hmm.
bug of when to travel is always. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think Tina's the perfect. She wouldn't say this, but I think she's the perfect example of that expat that never wanted to sit still. And she does have roots, but I think she's got them all over the place, and I think that's amazing.
No, I get it because I still get that itch. I mean, I'm in Utah and I've been back a couple of years now, but there's always an itch to move. There's always an itch to travel. Sitting still is not in our DNA.
No,
I think the second you land in a foreign country as an expat, that becomes instilled with you, right? It becomes part of your DNA. It's very complicated. It's very hard for people that don't. My wife, she gets it, and she wasn't a TCK, but she did. Her mom. I've said this a couple of times on the show. Her mom worked for an airline, so they were always going. They were in summertime. They would go not just to the next state, but they would go overseas. So she was exposed to that life a tiny pinch, and that helps
mhm.
for sure. But I mean, it's definitely those of us that lived it, whether it was a year, 2 years, right? My brother and I were overseas. I was overseas 10 years. He was overseas 8 years, but they were significant years. That becomes intertwined with your DNA, and I think that becomes who you are. Whether 2 years, whatever it is, and,
Yeah.
and I get that totally, man, and I appreciate that answer. Let's circle back to your acclimation process in Canada
Okay.
because this is part of your story, man. This is kind of where your story obviously you started off in Canada, then went overseas, and then back to Canada. But I always propose this question, no matter who I'm interviewing. It's the acclimation process was always, and it came as a shock to me because 10 years living overseas, I'm still proud to be an American. It's one of those things that you think I can't wait to get back to the States. And then you end up there and it's like, wait a minute, something's a little bit different. Something's not right. Like I'm home, but I'm not home. Right. So obviously you're Canadian and I love to hear your side of it. I mean, we talked about this in the little bit in the bio, but talk about your acclimation process back to Canada, the good, the bad, and everything in between, man.
So the first thing was the social aspect that I had the best friends I've ever had in my life, and I was
Hmm.
closer with them than
In Taiwan.
yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
are friends you told everything to, every secret to,
Yep.
confided to. I reasoned it to or likened it to very military later on in
Hmm.
life. That there was a platoon you lived with very closely, like. Because we were such a small knit community, we did everything together. Like
Yeah.
your brother was at my house like every morning. You
Well,
know,
those
we got
people are family, right? They're family to you. It's
exactly. And
yeah.
you can tell them anything, you can say anything. And then I came back to Canada, and it was yes, there's a period of making new friends, but I never made those friends again. They were
Yeah.
you're an outcast, you're different. Um, some people looked at it like you were kind of high and mighty, like oh you lived over there, like or you'd say something like my dad's driver or whatever, and they don't get that it costs a
No.
penny a day to have that
Yeah.
driver. But they didn't like that, and these are I went to a college that was a bit rural as well, so you're
Okay.
and it was a bit of a trade kind of place. So you're talking
Okay.
about some like like some dude from like
Yeah.
Paris, Ontario, that's like doesn't know how to type shoelaces because they wore rubber boots their whole life.
Mm.
True story, by the way. And like I just never seemed to fit in
Yeah.
um, during the 10 years that I was back before I joined the military. I had no, like I said in the bio, I had no interest in school whatsoever. I didn't do very well in it. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't sit still for that long. Um, I just didn't have, I was doing it from my parents, you know, like you're gonna go to college. I'm
Mhm.
like, I just want to get a job, and I ended
Yeah.
up getting a job, and I floated from this job, that job, very expat like that. You know, I couldn't sit still. I moved a lot, and again, I just never fit in. I was just that oddball, outcast kind of dude. I was very different from the average schmoo on the street.
Different in general, and then on top of that, you lived overseas, so yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I had nothing to connect with them about. Like
Yeah.
I didn't grow up here. I wasn't into sports. I didn't know anything about that stuff. Like I said, I didn't go to high school with anybody, so I don't have high school friends here that I could go talk to. All my friends were in New York mostly and in
Hmm.
Europe. So when you had time to or money to make that long distance phone call, that was it. That was and then you'd be on the phone for hours with those people. And
Yep.
you know that was tough. The best part that we had was Leif Solom was in
Hmm.
Utica, which wasn't that far from Toronto.
Yep.
And I remember I'd take a 12-hour bus ride to go see your brother Jason and I try to do that every couple of months. And that was for a few years. It was great, but you know that ends too because everybody grows up, moves on, and you still don't have the friends that you had like that. So you know, like until I joined the military, I was just a weird outcast kid, and you know.
Yeah. Sean McKeon wants to put some pictures up.
Yeah, sure, man, hit it. Oh God,
Yeah.
no.
Be careful. Be careful. Yeah.
You'll
You know.
see skinny kid in a second there. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I can totally relate to all that, man. I appreciate you sharing that story. I'm hoping Sean hurries and posts these because we're gonna jump ship here in a minute. But yeah, no, everybody struggles. I guess that's kind of what I always kind of push here is that, you know, my acclimation process. Same with you. I didn't go to a trade school, but I went to a small college in very rural North Carolina,
Mm.
and I hadn't lived in the States in 10 years.
Yeah,
You
and
know, so I
if you're not one of them, I found a lot of these
yeah
small towns. If your daddy didn't dig ditches with the, you know, the
yep
pioneers, you're not one of us. And
yeah no. I
that's the
mean, I was
struggle when
like.
you moved here. It was very difficult to fit. It took us 4 years to fit in.
Yeah, and I remember like I so totally understand and relatable because I played baseball at a small school, but everybody that I played baseball with was from the same small town in North Carolina. Like they knew the coach way before they even stepped foot on the baseball field at the college. Like it was all about recruiting and all that. I mean, nowadays you can recruit and you can be seen because of the internet, but we didn't have that, right? I was sending out VHS tapes from Taipei back to the States, hoping I heard anything, right? And I never did, by the way, just to be clear. So when I did go to college, my first stop was in North Carolina, and I had to walk on. I had to prove to the coach that I could play a little bit, and he was kind of skittish, and he's like, "Yeah, you can come to tryouts, whatever." And I had to bust my ass, and it worked out. But everybody there, no, everybody thought like, "Wait, this kid's from Taiwan? Like, you don't look Chinese." I used to get that all the time. Like,
All the
well, no,
time.
yeah,
All
I'm
the
like,
time.
well, I'm not Chinese. I just happen to be over there because everybody was so intertwined in the next town over. That's where they were from.
You know, I put my
And I,
application into the military
yeah,
on note, and I showed it, and there's my what do you call it, diploma and all that crap from
mhm.
Taipei American School. And when I walked in for my interview to the recruiting office, they went, "Who the fuck are you?" And I said, I'm Mark Soteroff, and they went,
Yeah,
"You're not Chinese." Soteroff, the Russian name should have tipped you off, like
yeah,
so. And yeah, that was all the time, everywhere. Why are
yeah,
you Chinese? And then it was,
yeah.
oh, this is fake. Like that was my plan, was to make a fake
Yeah.
Chinese diploma for high school. Like,
I totally get it, man. I don't even know if you've heard. I think I've shared this a couple of times on the show, but I can do you one better when I got to Boise because I finished. I ended up transferring. I popped my knee, done playing baseball and whatever, but ended up at Boise State. And when I moved to Boise State, I was technically a junior in school, but I got put in a freshman dorm, and I got put in with a kid that was actually Asian American from the town over from Boise, Twin Falls. I got placed with him, and so the day we moved into the dorm, like on the door, they had little like flags of where you were from, and so it said his name Manny is his name. I can't think of his last name, but let's just call it Lee. I think that was his last name, but it said Manny Lee, and then he had the U.S. flag underneath, and it said Ben Vogel, and it had the Taipei flag because at the time my parents were still in Taiwan. Right? Makes sense. It
Yeah.
made total sense to me, but so many people, like I can't tell you how many people came in and said, "Hey, I think they got the door wrong. You guys might want to fix that."
Yeah.
Like, no, it's good, man. That was home. So it totally made sense to us. But yeah, it's wild stories, and everybody's got a story. But the acclimation process, man, it's almost refreshing to hear that. Not that you struggle, I don't mean it that way, but like everybody seems to have that same interconnection back to their passport country. So it was a wild ride. That's the number one thing I struggle with more than anything. I struggle in North Carolina, and I struggle even when I got to Boise. Um, but it's just that concept of no one quite gets it, and the only people that get it are me, my brother, Sean, Tim, people that lived it. But that's what this, initially that's what this show was about. But yeah, man, it's a wild concept. We were so lucky on so many levels, and yet there's a psyche there that people didn't talk about, especially when we were there, right?
Yeah.
There's a little more info now, but there's that psyche process, returning back to your passport country. And if anything, this show does, I hope that this really, allows kids that are coming back to the States or Canada or wherever they're from to really understand that this isn't something new. It's been going on for a while, and there is help. There are options to kind of understand that we've all gone through it. We all will go through it. Right.
It goes back to your previous question of like any advice for the kids, and I just
yeah.
want to, you remember we had we had those counselors, the guidance counselors that would do like an acclimation, and they'd walk you through, they'd pair you up with some dude, and I don't even remember who my person was. Shit, it might well have been your brother, but trying to acclimatize us to life in Taiwan. But when you left, there was nothing. They just,
No.
It might feel weird when you go home.
Yeah, I didn't even get that. I remember having the diploma. We hung out for a couple of weeks, and we went to the water park.
Yeah.
See ya. Right. It's done. Have a good time. Thanks for your service, basically. Right. So it was that. I didn't know anything about it, and you don't really know it until you're in it. That's how I remember it. So, but it's almost in a weird, twisted ass way. It's refreshing to hear that you had the same kind of experience as the rest of us. So, all right, you ready to move on, man?
That's it.
We're gonna get deep now. This is the TCK. We're gonna turn the page on that stuff. Let's talk military. Why? I wrote this in your brief bio. I understand why you joined the military, but let's talk about, you mentioned to me that if you're cool with talking about this, you came back, you tried college, it wasn't for you. Totally understandable. It's not for everybody. Let's be honest. I get that. What got you to the military? I know you had a little brief issue with the law, the police, all that stuff. If you want to get into that, man, whatever you feel comfortable talking about, let's go for it.
I'll start up. My grandfather was a career soldier, and I wasn't ever really that close with my dad, but I was pretty close with him. And he started off as a private, and he retired a general. And he said the only lie he ever told, he's from Brandon, Manitoba, small town nowhere, Manitoba. And he said the only lie he ever told, which is probably the second lie he ever told, was that he lied about his age to get in the military. He was 16. And
holy shit!
Before they had IDs and all that, just
yeah.
Brown, how old are you? 18, sir. And he went. So I respected him, and I looked up to him, and he was always that guy that listened to me and watched old war movies and John Wayne movies with me and shit. And so I had this good relationship with him, and part of why I joined was I wanted to, I'll be honest, I wanted to impress him, and because I was a bum, like. I just sort of puttered around. I had this job I'll backtrack. I said I had some shitty jobs, and I wasn't making. I think my first paycheck was like $200 a week. I fell in with this crowd of dudes that I thought were super cool. Everywhere they went in these clubs and stuff, people just moved out of the way. Like I was like 19, 18, 19. I didn't really have a lot of friends, and these guys were the coolest shit. And in retrospect, when you look at those guys, knowing what you know now, it wasn't that people respected them. It's just they didn't want anything to do with them.
Right.
They were just greasy people that they moved out of the way because they were trouble. And sure as shit they were. And I got into a lot of trouble with them. And then straightened myself out. I basically woke up in the other side of the country one day and said if I kept on in Vancouver, doing some pretty negative things. And I said, if I keep doing this, I'm going to fucking die.
Mhm.
And I called my folks and I said, I don't want you to send me money, but could you send me a plane ticket? And
Yeah.
that was it. And I'm sure my mom loves hearing about that one. But that was it. I came back and I just started to say to myself, if you think you're a good person, act like it. You'll eventually be a good person. Because I was pretty dodgy. I was a dodgy dude. So I ended up getting a job. It was just like at a safety place that they sold flame retardant crap, and it was the easiest job I ever had.
Mhm.
But that's also where I met my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. I knew her dad from the place. I'll try not to derail too long, but
You're fine, man. We have nowhere to be, so you're good.
I knew him, and he came in. And he said, "Can my daughter work here over the summer?" I said, "Yeah, set it up." And this fucking 18-year-old, 19-year-old girl walks through with these boobs and body, and she's wearing a belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, she can hear me. She's wearing a belt, right, like, as a dress, and she
Yeah.
walks in with these high-heeled pumps on and like these legs, and she goes, "Hey, I'm here for the job interview." She was dressed so inappropriately that I left the door open for the interview.
Yeah.
And people coming in, and then when they left or she left, the guys came in and said, "If you don't hire her, we're gonna fucking kill you." And then we worked together. She was a cool chick, and then the power went out one night, and this thing was attached to my back, and I was so stupid with women at the time, I didn't realize she was throwing herself at me like, "Hey, I
There
like
you
you."
go.
So
Yeah.
like a month later, I kind of, "You want to go out with me?" And, but it was funny because she and I split for a bit over some stupid fight, and I just got sick of who I was,
Mhm.
and I thought, okay, I was pretty like you talked about how I had that gym membership, and you made it
Yeah.
very nice. I had a full-on tradesy deal with the guy next door who owned the gym that he could come and take product, and I got a free fucking membership.
That's awesome, man. No, that's awesome.
But it was I didn't even know what I was doing. I was starting to get kind of big, and people were
Mhm.
so skinny that when I put a tiny little bump of muscle on, people were like, "You're on steroids." And I made like $8 an hour. I couldn't afford to. So I started thinking I'm in shape. I'm not getting any younger, so I applied for the infantry. My
Mhm.
grandfather had been artillery, and I didn't want to be anything associated with him because everybody knew that guy.
Yeah.
If I did that, then they would be, "Oh, he's this guy's grandson," and we'll just. And I wanted to do it myself. I wanted it on my own steam. And so he respected that, and he said, "It's going to be harder." I said, "Yes, it's not easy to get into the. It's like being a cop. It's not easy to get in.
Mhm.
A lot of background checks, and I had a bad background,
Yeah.
but no convictions or anything." So when they asked me about it, I just told the truth, and I said, did one of those, I wish I didn't do it, but it made me the person. And like,
Yeah.
and it's all true, but I ended up getting into the what you guys call the National Guard.
Mhm.
We call it the reserves, was a reg
Okay.
force. There's an infantry unit in Toronto, and that's when I really just thought I fit in. Like I started making like those guys are still my friends today.
What year are we talking?
That was 2004.
Okay.
So I had like I was like 28, something like that,
Mhm.
and I had to go up against some basic guys that were 18 years old.
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to pat my back or anything, but like I really ate it up. I liked it, and I was my we call it basic courses. I was top candidate on most of them, and I was pretty happy with that. And that was the first thing in my life that I ever kind of went like, fucking did that, like right on. And family's proud, you're proud. And then I was a reservist. I still had this shitty job, the civilian job, and I think we paraded like Thursday nights and then weekends. And I just started to be like pick, pick, pick. I just wanted to be at that Thursday night on that weekend, away doing maneuvers, that kind of stuff. And I just couldn't take it anymore. I went and did my leadership training for 3 months, and everybody else was Reg Force. And
Mhm.
like the hardcore Reg Force infantry. We don't have a Marine Corps and an Army
Okay.
system. It's both. So the training, because we have less population,
All right.
the
Right.
training is
Right.
very intensive. So you're going on quality of soldiers versus quantity. Right? So everybody on graduation just went back to the barracks, and I had to drive back to Toronto. And I was
Mhm.
like sitting on my bunk, like I don't really want to do this.
Where were you at
This is in
before you?
Petawawa, and
Okay.
that's 6 hours away. Petawawa was a combat base up north.
Okay.
But the sergeant major walked in. He said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I don't know. I'm out of here, sir." He goes, "You want a job?" What? I thought you hated me. He goes, "I do, but you're a good soldier."
Wow.
He
Yeah.
goes, "You're a pain in my ass," because I like honestly, like I'm not shit like that in the military, but
Yeah.
I'm always in trouble. But anyway, he said, "You want to be an instructor here?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I do." So I was another week that I was back home. They gave me a contract and yada yada yada. I was doing full time shit, and it was I trained troops. Like I said, taught machine gun courses. Anything I could get my hands on. I
That's
loved it.
badass.
It was the best job.
So yeah, so you transitioned from part-time reserve status, right, to full-time, right?
Yeah.
How did was that when was that? What year we talking now?
It'll be '07,
Okay.
2007.
Okay.
So I was yeah, and then I signed up for a roto in Afghanistan. That one fell through because it was like a backup roto. It was a last minute thing. And
I understand what you're saying, but maybe the people watching don't. What roto meaning?
that's a tour duty in Afghanistan.
Yep. Okay.
The Afghan
So
war was in its height at that time. So
right, and a lot of people probably on the U.S. side don't realize a lot of you Canadians were over there. So let's. I want to make sure that that's definitely definitely mentioned. Yeah, I
I
get
saw
you,
you
man.
guys
So
there. I saw you guys there. Worked with
no,
a
I
lot of
appreciate.
Americans over there.
Yeah, yeah, but I want to make sure that like people know that Canadians are there too. You know, we're there. Let's say if you cool with this, man. You so let me just transition. So you ended up full time status. You volunteered for an Afghanistan tour.
Mhm.
Mad respect in and of itself. And this is the part of the conversation I hope you're cool with, and you and I've talked. I think you're cool with. 14th of June, 2010. Maybe let's backtrack a little bit. Everything. How long were you overseas before June 14th?
So I was there for about half the roto, just
Okay.
less than half the roto. I was actually set to go on my HLTA, which is your vacation home.
Hmm.
Which in a part of it, I'm actually glad I didn't go because it's like, say on like a 9 month tour, they send you home for a month
Yeah.
from a war zone.
A
I'd
little
rather
bit R and
just,
R. Is
yeah,
that
I'd rather go all the way
today's equivalent of R and R?
through. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'd rather just go all the way through. So I was actually
Okay.
almost happy to be wounded and I didn't have to
Yeah.
go home and
Okay, well then let's jump right to it. 14th of June 2010. Tell us about that day. The
so
moment you woke up till the moment you
so the shitty thing is 13 June is my
yeah.
wife's birthday.
Oh shit.
So
Really?
she's convinced with the time difference that this happened on her birthday.
Were you guys married yet?
We were engaged. We had
Okay.
reconnected on. So what happened was I was on pre-deployment for about a year with my platoon, a year and a half, and I ended up at a smaller base because they moved us around a lot of places, do
Hmm.
whatever checking the boxes we needed. And we had already been texting and talking and stuff. And like I said in the bio, like we reconnected, and I just thought,
So
man,
this was the girl.
this is the girl, yeah.
Attaboy. Yeah,
And
attaboy.
I just thought, like life couldn't get better. Like Natalie Bienick is my girlfriend. Like
Yeah.
this is the dream come true. As infantry, you're always training, and when you go into a theater of war, like you're actually doing the job.
Hmm.
So I was thinking, like, man, like best job I ever had. This is the way to go. So, 13 June, we were at a place called Wilson, and we were escorting the guns. We were withdrawing the artillery from certain places and taking them armed via convoy to other places. Fob Wilson was a very secure American base. So secure that the night we got there, they said we offered security and said you'd just be in the way. So yeah,
Wow.
every inch of that place is pre-sighted. So
Okay.
they said you're guaranteed a light show tonight, and but not take it easy. We played hockey with everybody. I had a cold shower, had a hot meal. We slept in air conditioning. We were actually fighting over the remote for the air conditioning. And we were used to living in the dirt kind of thing, right? Like
Yeah.
we were road warriors, they call us road runners, and we traveled in lavs, LAVs, and rhinos. You guys call them your Nyalas,
Hmm.
RG-15s or whatever the hell.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so we had a bit of a mix mash of gunboats, and so we woke up pretty refreshed, 14th of June, and there had been a firefight already on Summit. And so we knew that going down the road, there could be something there. And we had about 4 kilometers of culverts, which is the tube that goes underneath the road that they always put IEDs in. And so we were doing a VPS, vital point search for 4K. And this is a summer tour. It was fucking hot. right? So you're battling the heat, battling exhaustion, and the American standing patrol was sweeping through from that other firefight, and I had just waved at he waved at me, the American, I waved back at him. This is still a joke in my platoon today that as I waved at the guy, they fired an RPG at us, and it went so it looked like I was catching it. So, and because it was my
Yeah.
left hand that got fucked up, they were like, "Man, you shouldn't have catched that RPG."
Yeah.
So anyway, that the first RPG went off, and it's funny because like we've been in a couple of scrapes before, nothing to write home about, but this was like the RPG went off right beside the boat, and then the machine gun fire started, and there was no cover, like they ambushed. So we knew who they were. They were Chechnyan fighters that they knew more about fighting war than we'd ever know, and they flanked us. And I remember my buddy Sam saying, they're flanking us, man. I said, man, they don't do that. Because I'm telling you, they're flanking us. And now we got to deal with it. They cut us off. It was a perfect ambush, not to get too tactical, but we were literally cut off so bad with no cover. We were just clawing for inches in the ground to get lower. And the second one went off, and it was just kind of a bad day from there. I thought if I stay where I'm standing, they're just going to cut me in half. So I went around the back of the lav to get a better position of cover, position of fire, and you kind of get what you get. And I took my shot at this one dude, and he went down. I went to shoot the next guy. I don't know if I hit him, but he stopped shooting, and I went to go, follow my arc. I went to go to the third guy, and out of my peripheral, I saw the RPG team pop up. And they always say the last thing you say is "oh shit," and I went shoulda, because I just saw that center of that cone of that rocket, and the corner of the lab was here, and I was firing here, and it just went right through the fuel tank and just boom, just rings your bell, and you can still hear that sound. And I remember looking back as it blew me up off the ground like this, because I was laying down. It blew me up and back, bent my back upwards. I felt like this thud in my chest, and the fucking guy with the RPK had zeroed me as well. So it was the worst position of cover I could have picked, and he just lit me up my chest with 7.62 right in the plates. So, but I didn't know that for years after until they sent me the plates back and they said, "You want the bullets in it?" So I remember looking back and thinking my legs are gone, and well, my legs were there. And priority of work, I stuck my hand down my pants, felt around, nothing there, no blood. It's like my gun still there.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, tactically, like we gotta get out of this. And I went to pull a smoke grenade off my rig, and I pulled my hand up. My fingers, the bones were poking. I won't get too war pointy, but like the bones were poking out of my glove. And I went, "Oh, that's no good." And then so I'm like, "Man, so fucking hot today." Like, it's weird how your thought process goes. And I looked at my right arm and it was on fire. And I looked at my left arm, it was on fire. But I couldn't
Shit.
use my left arm. And that was the problem. And as I went to lift it, this like stream of blood went out. Oh, need a tourniquet. And I looked down and everything was gone. My
On
rig,
your left arm.
yeah, on my rig was all gone.
Oh, okay.
My equipment, I had one mag left. And I looked at my rifle. It was like kind of like this. So like I'm screwed. And I went running over to I was like, if you don't get up off the X, it's called the X wherever they got hit. You don't get off the X, you're gonna fucking die here. I went running to my buddy Ernie Forcadell, and he was with the saw, and he was just honking away at something or other. And said, "Hey man, I need a tourniquet." And he goes, "Why?" I said, "So I'm fucking hit." And he threw it at me, and he goes, "I knew it was bad," because he looked and he went, "Oh fuck." And it was just I remember putting the tourniquet on my arm, twisting it, and when you put a tourniquet on like a normal limb, there's blood circulation, everything going through there, so it hurts. And I just remember twisting this and just nothing, just the bones were going. So that's bad. So I just went higher and higher up till I found where I had feeling, and I cut that off. And the worst part of that day was asking for help. And my buddy Joel Chidley was the 2IC. I was the ground commander for the fight, and he pulled me 100 meters to a better position. And I remember losing consciousness there, and I looked up and I could see him kneeling over top me, putting some kind of bandage there. And And I just said, like, Joel, I need your help, man. I don't have situational awareness anymore. I said, you got to take over. And he, he looked at me, I said, I don't want it. I said, you have to, man. And I grabbed him by the chin strap. And I pulled him out. I said, you have to take over. Sam's too far out. And I don't have any situational awareness of where the next team is coming from, the next RPG team is coming from. And he just went, oh, fuck. And he did it. And he took over. And, we got it. We exfilled out of there. It was one of those things where we couldn't engage them directly. We had to block the rest of the convoy for protection and then move out. And that was a pretty shitty day. So the worst part of that was that I got a bit of a bone with some of the guys that were out there, the truckers. They're not frontline soldiers, but they had trained with us. And one guy fucking filmed it instead of getting out and helping.
Wow.
Wow. It's funny because like now we actually have footage of it. If he hadn't, and that guy actually came up to me years later and said, I'm really sorry about that. He goes, I wasn't thinking, I was just a reaction. So he and I are fine, but it was just like that day, like, where were you guys? Like, where was everybody? But anyway, I was the only casualty that day, and we all got out, and the Americans lit that fucking area up that night. So, I was at a mad respect for that too. And I was, we made it to Masum, where there was a Black Hawk ready to go. And one of the last things I remember was this corpsman, American corpsman goes, "You're gonna love this, man." He hit me in the neck, and I just went, "Wow."
So they got you in the neck too?
With morphine or something or other, and you're just
okay.
Wow. Yeah. And I remember being on the chopper, and there was I don't know who he was, but there was some Afghan dude there, and he was sitting above me, and I had the flight engineer, the medic, over top me with his big helmet on. I couldn't see his face, and I don't know. I was kind of in and out of it, and I looked up at this guy, and I nodded at him, and he spat on me, spat in my face, and I reached down to I threw the blanket off. He was on a stretcher, and I reached into where my sidearm was, and the FE saw it, and he said he put his foot. I don't even think I had the pistol on me anymore, but the guys probably would have taken it. But I was going for it. And he put his foot on my hand, and he just took the a little med bag, and he just belted that guy. And he looked down at me and went, "You're okay."
Spat. Okay, so spat on you.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy was.
Accidentally or on like?
Oh no, it was a.
Really?
Insult, right? So,
okay.
But I just thought that American dude that took care of him, I thought that was like, it was the way to go. Like it's a shitty situation anyway. And that guy, I have no idea who he was, what he looked like, but I started to kind of go into shock, and you get a little freaked out when something like that happens. And he just leaned in, and he just said, I have this engraved on a pocket watch. And he said, "Hold on, just a little longer."
Yeah.
It was, that meant a lot to me, and that got me through a lot of shitty nights anyway. But anyway, from there I went to Roll 3 in Kandahar, and they tried to do a debrief, but I was so doped up that I don't think I gave a really proper debrief. What happened. I do remember apologizing to my sergeant major. Fucking
oh man.
Yeah, like, sorry, sir, I fucked up. And he said, "Do you want anything? Because you're going to Landstuhl. You're going to Bagram, then you're going to Landstuhl." And he said, "Yeah, could you give me my shaving kit and maybe a pack of smokes?" I smoked heavily back then. A pack of smokes and some contact lenses, toothpaste, all this kind of stuff. So I brought my shaving kit. There wasn't anything in it but smokes and a couple of contact lenses.
That's all.
No socks, no underwear, no nothing. It was just a bunch of they jammed all the packs of smokes in there they could. And from there we went to Bagram, where they stabilized me. There was a few surgeries there. That's where the hand surgeon came in.
Yeah, tell us about that if you can.
So the wounds were to my neck. You can't see the beard. My face, my neck, my hip. There's a bunch of shrapnel in my hip. My arm, my left arm. I know the BIOS is right, but my left arm was punctured under here. The tricep was taken off. Part of it was taken off, and then my hand. Most of it's there. But like I'm missing a knuckle on one side, but it was one of those wounds that like they thought, okay, you're gonna lose the fingers, then it's gonna get infected, you're gonna go here, they're gonna chop there, da, da, da. And this dude, this Canadian hand surgeon was flying through, and they went, "You're working." He goes, "No, I'm not. You're working." And I remember this guy coming in and saying, I'll do what I can, but you're gonna lose those fingers. And I remember being very like, please don't cut my, really got my fucking fingers, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I begged the guy, please just, I don't care if they even work, don't cut my fingers off. I got this thing about getting them in. It's always freaked me out. So, and I woke up, and there's a super hot nurse there who I have her on Instagram and Facebook. She's super cool. She lives in Colorado.
Yeah.
And I thought she was a nurse, and then I didn't realize she had 2 bars on her hand. She was a captain.
But she was a captain.
Yeah. Fuck. And she came back in and talked to me for like an hour, and was the nicest person on the planet. And she said, "Have you checked your hand yet?" And I had been sitting there for hours looking at this mitt of bandage, and I thought my hand was gone, and all I had to do was turn it to see that my fingers were all there. But I was so scared for hours, like, oh, my hand is gone. And she goes, "Did you even look to see if your hand's there?" Like, oh shit! I was like, so it's you got to take the comedy where you get it with this kind of stuff, or you won't get through. So
right.
And then from there, like Bagram was pretty bad. That's one of those things that I work with guys with PTSD, and that's one of those ones that that's one thing. When the psychiatrists all want to ask you about shit, like Bagram's the one thing I don't think I'll ever talk to anybody about. That looked like American Civil War movie. It was pretty bad. That's where they took the really badly wounded to be stabilized. And
totally.
from there we went to Landstuhl, and I spent I think 2 weeks there, and then more surgeries, and brought me home to Canada. And then it was basically the next 2 years of fix this, let it heal, fix this, let it heal. And things like I couldn't move my thumb, so I put an elastic.
Yeah.
Like I said, you got to take the comedy with it, right? Like every time I was so set on fitness to get better and working out. That's all I want to do is just get back in the gym and start working out, get big, and get fit, feel normal, feel back to me again, get back to the infantry, get back to Afghanistan. And I had this hope in my head that I was going to get back there before my platoon left. That's nonsense, right? But one of the things there was a surgery where they put the elastic in the thumb so it would work, and I hadn't been able to move my thumb in about a year. And I was in that inside the cast, flicking around the cotton on the inside of it. The doctor goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I can feel the cotton. I can move my thumb." He goes, "Great. Don't fucking do that for another 13 years." He goes, "Why am I telling you this?" He goes, "Mrs. Soteroff, can you come in here?" They knew by now that if they told me to lie and tell my wife that, if they said 13 weeks of recovery, I'd say 2. So they it's it was a long process. It was 9 surgeries, a couple years, and then I was given a choice. Tell me if I'm getting too far ahead here. But
no, you're fine, man. You're fine. Just be you. Do you right now.
So I was given a choice. They said you don't meet. We call it universality of service, which means you meet all the criteria for your trade, like infantry, engineer, or whatever. And they said you're never going to be in the infantry again, man. And I said, yeah, I can make this. I can do this. Nope, you don't make it. Then when the government says you don't make it, you don't make it. So, or the career manager, whatever it is. So they said, pick something else. And I knew this dude who'd been an ammunition technician. I didn't know what that was. It's also A. It starts at the top of the list when you're looking on the wall for the trades. And I was like, what's that? And he goes, man, you get to blow shit up sometimes. But it was logistical and back line kind of stuff. And I was like, all right. So all I heard was blow shit up. I had to go do a PT test, a fitness test, to meet universality of service to get back into the military, to get off my medical category. And they had said, you remember the grip test? Did you ever have to do that stuff? It was in PSI or something. So this thing on the wall said 140. So, all right, I got to get this thing to 140. This is, at first, all I could do was this. I could hold a coffee cup, and then I can't feel it. I have no feeling in it. But I've worked on this. I practiced it with all my other running and all this, that I was going to squeeze this thing to 140. And the day of the test, I was at 138, 139. It just wouldn't go. And the guy goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Man, I gotta pass." He goes, "70 is a pass. It's each hand." I'm like, oh. I had no idea.
Wow.
So I've been training for months to get this one thing. he goes, you know, your hand is stronger than most regular soldiers who weren't hurt. So it's like, okay, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's funny how those things work out. But anyway, I passed the test, and then I was accepted into the ammunition technician course. I had to go do a QL3 back down to corporal because I lost my rank. I went all the way back down to corporal. And coming from Afghanistan to that course, and they were teaching the basics of
What?
everything.
Okay, hold it. Why'd you lose your rank?
So in Canada, when you, I don't know about the States, but when you switch trades, we
Uh-huh.
have a rank in the middle called the master corporal, which is the
Ah,
master of your trade.
gotcha. Yeah.
So it's a QL5 course, they call it, which means that is you're senior in that trade and you know everything. So when you switch trades, you don't have that anymore for that trade. So you got to go back down to corporal.
Okay.
Corporal's a working rank
Mm-hmm.
in the Canadian Army. So we have more corporals than privates, to be honest. Corporal's like a dude you can count on. He's been
Yeah.
around for a bit, you know, so 4 or 5 years probably. But anyway, so there was about half the class of 12 was Afghan vets, and they're teaching us this is a bullet. This is the projectile. Inside is propellant. We're like dying watching these lectures. So and they know it that it's just death for the vets, right? But we pumped through it, and then we got to the harder phases. You have to get into missiles and explosives and all that stuff. And the last part of the course is just blowing stuff up, logistical disposal. So that was pretty cool. But then you go to the trade,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't really like that. You're just behind a desk or grabbing ammo for units that are actually fighting and or you know training to fight or whatever. I was a supply tech. I was a bullet supply tech. And I mean, it had its challenges. It wasn't an easy job by any stretch. It's you got to use your brain a lot, and it just wasn't for me. And I think about 2 or 3 years in, they changed the structure of it that I wasn't going to get my rank back as fast as I was told I would. So I was kind of disgruntled with that, and again, I didn't have that bond with anybody there. The logistical guys in the military don't have, and I'm sure I'll get flack for this later, but they don't have that bond of shared hardships of living in a pile of dirt that you dug for 2 weeks in your own filth, sharing a cigarette with 27 other guys, and it's all disgusting and everything. They don't have that bond, and I just never bonded with them. It was funny because the sergeant major came out, one of the sergeant majors in the canteen at lunch. The vets we used to talk about Afghanistan, and in today's world we know that's healthy, right? But back then they said you guys are the fucking the rabid dogs left over from the Afghan War, and we got to put you on a leash. So shut up and stop talking about that shit. It makes the other guys uncomfortable. And it was like, okay, so not a very warm reception into that world. The combat arms and the logistical side don't really have much in common, right? So there's a bit of a weird transition to go from a combat arms to a logistical guy. It just wasn't for me, and I was all set to maybe pull a pin and go be a cop or something. I don't know. And I was having trouble at home because I wasn't adjusting to it very well. And I remember my wife sent me this. She sent me an email that said, you gotta sort this out because you're not who you used to be. And she said, we'll follow you anywhere, but not if you're going to be this guy. Because I was just depressed. I was
Yeah.
angry when I got home, and
Rightfully so.
you take it out
Rightfully
on your
so.
family, and
Yep.
so it's. I said, all right, like time to go do something else. And my buddy of mine said, well, what about this other unit? This is a specialized unit. And I said, man, they don't take guys like us. Those guys are all, they don't have medical limitations and this and that. Like, there's certain things. I know I'm big, but there's certain things that really can't do because of shrapnel here, there, whatever. My grip is not the greatest thing. My dexterity on this side's not great. But I said, man, they don't take guys like us. We're all busted up. And he said, I dare you. And the funny thing is that so we both put our applications in. I got in and he didn't. So that was that. And I spent a few years in that unit, and they tell you that the tempo of the place is insane, but until you go and live it, you have no idea. Like you're never home. I've missed every birthday for shit since probably 2000.
Yeah, because so how old's your daughter now? How old's your daughter about this
She'll be
point?
9 next month.
Well, I mean, at this point, Not now,
She
but
was,
before.
well, she would have been 4
Okay.
or 4. So to her to move to a whole other region is that was
Mm-hmm.
another thing too. It meant that if I got this, and I had talked about it with my wife. What do you think if I apply to this? It's closer to Ottawa. It's away from her family, and she's very tight with her family. They had never
Mm-hmm.
been apart. And I said, that means that we won't be close to them. We won't have that social support or the family support. And it wasn't an easy transition for her either. And then the fact that as soon as we get here, it was literally the moving truck was out front, and I'm supposed to be off for 5 days to unpack our stuff. And my boss hands me a black bag, a back duffel bag, and you start filling it with new kit. And he said, anyway, tomorrow morning be on the bus because you're going to do your course. And I was gone for another 10 days, 2 weeks or whatever. So that's it. You're just gone. And then I think the second week that I was actually home, the buzzer goes off and you got to go. You grab your go bag and you're gone. I was all set to go to the range and shoot one morning, and I kissed her goodbye, and then I came running back in the door. I said, "Nope, not going to the range." So where you go? I said, "I don't know. So I'll find out when I get there." And she goes, "When are you coming home?" I said, "I don't know." You're either home that day or you're home in a month. So that's that, right? It's a different kind of lifestyle, and you just got to get used to. You have to be proactive about being reactive, and it's amazing for us.
Yeah.
It's really hard on the family. And my last tour, my daughter was older, and it was a planned one. This one, I knew I was going. I think 72 hours notice to move, but I knew I was going. I had time for them to know. And again, she's at the age where you can reason with her. And the first thing she said was, "You're going to be gone for Christmas."
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was tough. But you know what? That wasn't Afghanistan. We had Wi-Fi. We had area. you know, we
Wow.
had all the good stuff. I called home every night on
Yeah.
WhatsApp. I remember my wife saying, "It doesn't even feel like you're gone. It's like you're on a tasking or something." So it was a much different quality of tour, but still with the same sort of risk.
It's still a tour, man. Still a risk. Yeah, I get that. Wow. Um, let me just make sure you saw this. Like I don't even know what to say right now. Wow. I think I speak for everybody watching right now and just say wow. Like we're gonna circle back around, but
It's just built.
having
That's all.
yeah, yeah, no, I totally understand. So let's talk about therapy, both mentally and physically. I mean, I obviously you had started this fitness regiment, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna assume, and I don't like to assume, but I'm gonna assume that that's what kind of helps you both physically and mentally getting back to how you are now. Let's talk about your fitness, because obviously the Mark Soteroff I knew in Taipei, that's not what you look like, brother. Yeah, let's talk about that. So how did I mean, obviously you told us earlier that the fitness thing kind of kicked in when you were kind of just kind of finding your way. But I'm assuming that in terms of a therapy program, a therapy method, this is kind of the product of that, right?
It helped later on, but so I was 26
Okay.
when I joined that gym. And I
Yeah.
didn't know what I was doing. I just walked in
Before the military.
before the military.
Yeah.
And what happened was my hair started to fall out. So I said, "You know what? Yeah, man, yeah,
I
it's
got you.
up
I
here."
got you.
So I said, "My hair is gonna fall out. I'm gonna be jacked." And I didn't even know what I was doing, right? Like, because I was a single guy. I was like, who's gonna want some skinny bald guy, right? So of course there was only 3 hairs missing, and I lost it. But I just started working out. Like I said, I just started, from nothing, you can only make
Mhm.
gains, right? So, but people started saying, like, you're on steroids. Like, my boss was accusing me of being on steroids and shit like that. And I remember I see those pictures from back then and remember thinking I was so big then. And I look at it now, I'm like a skinny little kid still with like maybe like a pack. And when I joined the military, I remember everybody said I was huge.
Yeah.
And I've seen those pics from basic training, and I really wasn't that big. I was tall, but I was probably bigger, but I was in pretty good shape, especially for a guy, pushing 30. I was in pretty decent shape.
Because you were kind of late to the party. Am I wrong in saying that? I
I
mean,
was older.
usually, yeah. So
And,
same thing here in the States. I mean, 30 is kind of that's a little late to the party for a military
30
career.
is the cutoff for the Marines. You can't join the
Yeah.
Marines 30.
Yeah.
So that was the thing. Was I remember thinking I was so big, and they must have too, because
You froze up, brother. Can you hear me? All right, those of you watching, we are a little bit frozen right now. We're gonna be okay. Let's see if we can reconnect with Mark. Those of you that are watching, obviously you probably are seeing what I'm seeing right now, but please feel free to interact. Let's try to get Mark back here in a minute. So let me just reach out to him. This is amazing. I hope you all are watching right now, but let me reconnect with Mark. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Let's see. Okay, so we lost Mark, but we are going to get him back. So no worries right now. Let me see if I can reach out to him and see what's going on his end. This is, wow. I don't even know what to say right now about this. Okay, so Marcus said he is rebooting. He is going to be back to us in just a second. I hope y'all are watching right now. This is fascinating. I've done 13 of these, and this is by my own account. I don't even know what to say right now. Mark's story is incredible. So let's try to get him back on. Let's see if we can do that. Stand by if you guys are all okay with that. He's rebooting his Wi-Fi. We should be okay here in just a minute. Let's see if he is going to be okay. So, by the way, though, those of you that are watching right now, please go ahead and interact. I hope you're watching. My brother, Cowboy Fruits. We'll make sure we talk to him about that once he's back on. So he is going to be back with us. It sounds like he is in the middle of a. Let's see. Yeah, he's got a storm over his area right now where he's at in Canada. So hopefully he's able to rejoin. There he is. We're back.
Yep.
We are back, brother. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm on my cell phone.
No, you're good. You're good. That was
so. I'm gonna try to boot back in on
that
this
works
one
too, brother. So yeah.
Bear with me.
Go ahead.
I'm actually gonna leave this one and go back in on the computer.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. So he's if you're just joining us, it looks like he is back via computer now. There we go. You back, brother?
Yeah, we had a storm. The power flickered. So.
Okay. Whoops. Looks like you're. I don't know if you can hear me, Mark. If you can hear me, your phone actually worked better. I don't know if that's okay to do or not, but your phone was actually working better. You froze up again on your computer. So if you can hear me, go back to your phone, and we'll see what we can do. But those of you that are watching, please make sure you interact. This story, I'm speechless. So I hope you guys are enjoying it right now too. We'll see what we can do. So make sure you interact with us. Let's see here. He's texting me right now. There he is. Okay, so we got Mark back.
So let's stick
Mark,
with this thing here. Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, your phone works perfect. Yeah, it's actually better, to be honest with you. So go ahead. There he is. He's back. So go ahead, man.
There we are. All right. I'm gonna put this.
We might have a little bit of an echo, but that's okay. I can hear you perfect on your cell phone too. So go ahead.
All right. So where were we?
So many places. Yeah.
I heard something about ask him if he's got a pair of cowboy boots.
Yeah, my brother went ahead and said, ask him if he still has a pair of cowboy boots. So I don't even know what that's about. So
always, man, always. Your brother always had the best boots, and I came in close second on that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were kind of winding down your military career. You were talking about your wife and just kind of where the last bit of your trials were taking you, and if you can pick up from there. So
yeah, so my time with that unit was coming to an end after my last tour, and it was a time to think about what to do next. And I was a volunteer with this program called OSIS, Operational Stress Injury Social Support. And years ago, in Canada, there had been, the beginning of the war. There was a doc who was a shrink kind of thing, and he had a bunch of guys in his waiting room suffering pretty heavily from PTSD. And when he was there, they were all laughing away in his waiting room, telling bullshit.
It looks like we froze again. Everybody stand by. There we go. You're back.
There you go. So it's just peer support. So what I do is I'm a peer support counselor for the National Capital Region. I have volunteers and peers that from all walks of life that are in varying stages of the procedure of leaving the military or have left and suffer from PTSD. And we just basically, I'm a Rolodex. I provide anything they might need. Like I had a dude the other day that was struggling with, his family had left at this point. He was pretty down. And he's a police officer now, and we got him a canine. So, I got access to all that kind of stuff. It's all about networking and finding the right tool for that person, what they need. And sometimes it's just go have coffee with them, a lot of vets have tried this to varying degrees of success, to just be there for the other guy. But this is an actual government funded network it's almost like a roller coaster or a Walmart one-stop shop. You have to have your therapist, you have to have your social support network, and you have to be working on stuff on your own. And you might want to be with the group sometimes. Like we run webinars right now with the group to get people talking, or we used to meet at the Legion before COVID, and you just let everybody talk. And it was like, it was much like that whole thing with reintegrating from Afghanistan, from Taiwan. Mm-hmm. That everyone goes, yeah, I get that, I understand that feeling. And it's so when a guy says, I went on a vacation with my family and I spent the first 2 weeks in Bora Bora walking my perimeter, and everyone goes, yep, you're normal, dude. I know exactly what you mean. That person suddenly feels better. They are more normal, and they got people they can call when things are dark. And I'm not a crisis counselor, but I have access to those. So if somebody calls me at 2 a.m., I have some questions for them first, but about self-harm and that. But I'm going to put them on the phone with a crisis counselor, and I'm going to check, make sure that they called, and then I'm going to make sure they show up for sick parade, for mental health sick parade the next day. I mean, some of them you got to go walk the guy and do it, and some of them will, just tell them on the phone they'll do it. It's but it's just soldiers being there for each other. And I say to all my peers, because they always say, I'm alone, I'm so dark, I'm ugly, I'm hideous, nobody likes me. And I said, you're not alone. As long as one of us draws breath, you are not alone. We all get it, what we went through. And that's back to what you and I were talking about before, is like people go, I just want to be fucking normal again. Well, I got flash, Jack. You were never normal. Yeah. You jumped out of helicopters. You did this, that. You lived in the desert like a savage. You were never normal. You chose this because that's who you are. And I'll backtrack for a sec. That it was actually an American commercial, but I knew that I wanted to be in the unit that I ended up in, or in the military in general. I saw this commercial when I was a kid, and my mom told me about it the other day, and I hadn't thought of it in years. But it was just this kid, the commercial was for, I think Delta or something like that, CAG, whatever they are now. And they said, this kid loses his backpack in the river, and his friends go, it's gone. And he goes on this big adventure to rescue his backpack, sew it all together, get it back up, climbs the waterfall, meets up with his friends. It says, Special Forces, we've been waiting for you. And I always remember thinking that. It's like, I want to be in the military. That's what I want to do. So we were never normal people.
No, I can't tell you how much I respect that, man. So let's if it's cool with you, let's transition a little bit. What's life like now? I mean, you've got a beautiful wife, you've got a beautiful daughter, you've got an impactful new job. Let's talk about that. What's life like now, right now?
Well, I mean, I like this job. I like it a lot, and I'm just sort of running out the clock, waiting for when I'm out of the military, and I'll be a civilian doing the same thing. So the only difference is my beard will get longer, and I'll have tattoos on my head. But
so you're technically still in.
Yeah, because I kind of struck a backdoor deal. I was when they sent me back to the conventional military, all my restrictions came back up for medical, and they said we want you to go to this one place overseas and do something or other, but for the conventional green military. Mm-hmm. And so all right, so I started my DAG kind of thing, and they went, you can't deploy, you're broken. So I just got home from this place, and they went, no, you didn't. This is the military. You're trying to, the government that you're trying to reason with, and it doesn't make sense. On paper, you're broken, so you can't do these things. It was like, so it was one of those things. They went, well, these things have gotten worse, like my hearing, all that. With the PTSD issue, I had started to notice that I had memory issues, short-term memory. We went to lunch, my crew and I, from work, and I was driving, and I got to the light, and I got, what are you doing? I said, where are we going? I said, lunch, stupid. I said, all right. Where? I said, turn left. All right. And I had no idea where the fuck we were going. Short-term memory was gone. And I made a few mistakes at work too that I shouldn't have made, but it's just short-term memory. I had no idea that I had missed these things. And then it was a corpsman in 29 Palms said to me, have you ever been diagnosed with a TBI? I said, I don't know what that is. It's a traumatic brain injury. Have you ever had a blast to the head? I said, yeah. So that's actually a bruise on your brain, and it can take years to manifest or instantly. So, I went home, saw the docs, and like, yeah, you have a massive fucking bruise on your brain. And, and blowing stuff up for years after didn't help. So, like we did overseas one day, we did 13 shots, 13 blows in about 2 hours, and they were about 30 meters away. So, I mean, that just rocks your brain as well. So compound the injury and it just gets worse. But my boss started to notice when I'd get frustrated, I'd have a stutter. I couldn't get certain words out, and they thought it was hearing. And because I was that was another issue too. I was reading people's lips. And when they sent me to the really expensive doc for the hearing, she was having me repeat what she said, and then she went like that. And I didn't have any idea what she was saying. So, but you compound those things, and the conventional army says, that's it, you're done. So I applied for this job. I saw it online, and like I said, I'd been a volunteer, an unpaid volunteer. And I aced the interview. They told me, you did very well, you got it. So they struck a deal where, since I wasn't even allowed to go to my other job anymore, they said, you can come here every day, civilian clothing, and do your thing until such time as your release date comes up, and then you're just one of us. So that's it. That's me. And I love this job. It's this is going to sound really cheesy, but people say, like, when people come, they go, thank you for your service. I always felt really weird about that. And I'd always have this, like, harebrained excuse. I'd just say, I'm too stupid to do something else. And when I got with this job, they said, why don't you just say thank you? The people it's a reflex. They just don't get it. So it's all right. Now I just say thank you. And now, doing this job, I get that feeling. I actually do feel like I earned it. If I help, somebody that day with whatever issue they're having, and someone says thank you for your service, that means more to me now, that I helped that guy versus, blasting some guy in Afghanistan. That wigs me out. But I like this job. I think I'm good at it. I haven't had a shitagram in a while about it, so you probably due for one now, but now that I've said it, but it's it helps you. It helps you get some kind of peace too out of all this, that makes some sense of it. Like, I could sit here and go, I don't know what the hell we were doing in Afghanistan. I was young and dumb, and I believed everything they told us. And that what was that all for? I mean, I don't know. The guy next to me, of course, but the rest of it politically, I don't know. So now, having been in this position, in helping people that are in the same position, going through what I went through maybe a couple months ago, or, it means something. It's a good feeling. And you can kind of hang your hat up at the end of the day, or take your cowboy boots off at the end of the day and go, all right, that was a good day. But you have to maintain your own mental health with it, because you're taking on other people's shit. So if you don't, like it was a tough learning curve. I had to learn I can't take more than 4 or 5 clients a day, or I overwhelm myself. And and then I'm useless when I come home. So
Yeah, you can't help unless you're taking care of yourself, man. I totally understand
Yeah.
that.
Like a prerequisite of the job has to be that something shitty happened to you, and so you can identify with the other people.
Oh, I get that. Well, first off, I mean, well, we'll come back. We'll circle back around. But yeah, what you're doing is amazing, man. And I know that's easy for me to say. I'm not in your shoes, but you've definitely earned this. And
Nice.
it's I'm a layman right now. Let's be honest. Yeah, I'm not even going to try to put myself in your shoes, but I can speak for everybody watching right now, and I know this wholeheartedly. Yeah, thank you for not only for your service but your sacrifice, man. It's an amazing story, and I know you probably don't view it that way, but the people that see it and know you and see you and what you've been through. Wow.
You know what? Every person that left Taiwan, like my buddy asked today, like, why are you doing a podcast on your high school? I'm like, well, you know what, man?
Yeah.
Like, everybody went their different ways overseas, and the way I look at it is every single life that we knew of all those people, each one of those is a separate adventure all over the world. Like, man, look at Alex Goldschmidt. Like his pictures alone on Instagram are gorgeous. Like all over, Europe and this and that. And like, I love seeing Facebook and Instagram from everybody. Your brother's art shows and stuff like that. Like it's crazy. Like what he's made of himself is mind-boggling. Like that's every time he tags me in something or sends like the the mass invite for the gallery. It's always nice to look through that stuff and see it. And I mean, Nick Booth and Jackie off in Australia, like just to see people's lives, a window into their lives, what adventures, each one of them, like it doesn't matter if it's military, this, that, whatever. Like fucking Tim Wanger's a pilot. Like,
oh, seriously.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what this whole show is about. I mean, I said this in the beginning, everybody's got a story, right? It doesn't matter where you're from and how you grew up. I mean, we just happen to be kids that grew up as expats, but everybody's got a story. And I like I said, I mean, I speak for everybody that's watching this. I mean, yours is so powerful, and it's a story that needs to be told. And I hope you appreciate that. But we should be thanking you. I mean, this is
flattered.
amazing.
I'm very flattered to even be on the show. So
no, man, we're not done yet. So don't think we're done. We don't think we're done. But I mean, I chatted with you via text, and I think it was via Facebook a couple months back, man. But I just hope you sincerely know that the people, everybody, but specifically the people that are watching, man, we've got your back, and we admire what you're doing, and we. It's not about necessarily thank you for your service, but thank you for your sacrifice, because you went through hell, man. And
appreciate it.
Those of us that are sitting back here, like starting a podcast or a video cast, right? I don't know what you went through. I'm just sitting here in awe. I have a bad day, and it's nothing compared to what you've gone through. So
there's been worse days. Everybody's had those days.
Right.
Yeah, it's all in perspective. And the funny thing is, we were supposed to have our 10-year platoon reunion this year, and it was all planned out. We were going to go to I was still pretty tight with my platoon commander. He's a cop down in southern Ontario, in a gorgeous area, like a resort kind of area. So tough job for him because it's all tourists, from Toronto.
Damn tourists,
right? He offered up his place. We were all going to go stay there. It's like, supposed to be last week, and that, COVID killed all that. So it kind of sucks. It would have been nice to see everybody again and, tell our bullshit war stories or find out what the real story was if something happened.
Well, you've earned the right to tell those bullshit war stories, man. So, trust me on that one. So let's, I gotta pick your brain for a second. I gotta give you a little bit of shit. So, what's going on? Let's see. What's going on here, Mr. Model? I don't know if everybody can see that. There we go. We got a vet here. We got a military man here, but we got a modeling career maybe in the making. Talk to us.
I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for that. Who said that? Who?
That was me.
Oh,
that was this guy. No, let me tell the people real quick. Usually when I do these, I always send off a little bit of questions and make sure everybody's cool with the questions. But I do like to surprise everybody now and then. But Mr. Soteroff here is a aspiring model, apparently.
Yep.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Tell me about Canadian Bush, man.
So sorry, I had to plug that in.
You're fine. You're fine.
So we're in a small town, very, very
Yeah.
small town, and I work out at this gym. I do some personal training on the side at this gym, and so people kind of get to know you. And I mean, I'm 6'4", I'm 260 pounds. I stand out. You know,
That's
like
it? Just 260?
yeah, that's it. You know, I stand out. So you tend to meet a lot more people that way, and it's kind of nice in a small town because the first thing they do is they look at you like this, and then they go, you know, well, where did you work? And you tell them, they go, oh, okay, cool, because everybody knows that place around here, and it's like you get some credit that you're maybe not a prick, some weird biker looking dude, but people are immediately more friendly. So this girl is a hairdresser, Candace, and she was experimenting on her brother with beard oil and stuff like that, and she started that company, and she got like 5 or 6 of us to take pictures and stuff. And she said, would you go out to the ruins out in our town there, and they're graffitied up and stuff like that. She goes, would you take some pictures? And then that one you held up, she held it till the end, and she goes, this is the douche pic. And I go, what's the douche pic? And she goes, it's and she's so shy when she's trying to say something like this that she was like giggling, laughing. And she goes, I want you to put your hand up your shirt. And I'm like, what? And she showed me this picture. She goes, do what this guy does. And I was like, oh, geez, yeah.
This one?
Yeah. And so that was the douche pic, but it was like, it's just for beard oil and stuff like that. I mean, hey, it's hair, man. You got to take care of that. You got to take care of that. That's a lifestyle.
I just had to bust your chops on that, man. That's awesome. By the way,
in our house,
the
joke in our house is that I'm an Instagram supermodel. So
yes, yes, you are. And by the way, let Canadian Bush know if they're ever wanting to sponsor.
Hey,
bring it on.
American Bush.
We'll take it. Well, American Bush, Canada Bush, whatever. We're all for the Bush, so it's all good, man. So I had to bust your balls for that. Sorry. One more time. There he is. Look at that.
So good.
Internet sensation right there. So
go on. I'll be flipping through Instagram once in a while, and I don't even notice that it's me because it's on Candace's site, and it's like she won't. I mean, I'm tagged in it, but I'm just like sort of scrolling through, and it's like, oh shit, that's me. Yeah. So I don't even notice now.
That's you, man. That's you. That's awesome. Let's talk about other passions. I know you're. It's my understanding you're part owner of the gym, obviously, but you're also Are you a board member of the gun club in your local?
Yeah, I'm a certified pistol carbine instructor. It's my passion. It's my zen. It's a little frou-frou on some people, but I believe in the Zen warrior, Viking kind of lifestyle. Like, there's some peace to all that. And when I got into tactical shooting, I found it there's a lot of moving parts to it. There's a lot of principles to it, and then subheadings in the principle. And if you ever heard of Kyudo, which is the way of the bow, how many hundreds of years old, the principles of marksmanship are exactly the same for the way of the gun. And from the trigger control, the follow through of the shot, everything. The Zen part of it has, when I knock the arrow, I show intent. When I loose the arrow, I release my will on you. Like it's very calming, I find, because it's like golf, right? That one shot matters. So you practice that, you hone that. And I find, if I go from the draw and I put one low left, well, I know what I did wrong. I was mashing the trigger. And I find working on those drills, it's called running drills. And, doing that with my friends at the gun club started to be very peaceful and very zen, very clears your mind. You remember that baseball thing, clear the mechanism, for the pitcher? Like, it's the same thing. Like, when you're shooting, you go into a tunnel, and then at the end of it, reset slack sight, you bring it out and you scan and breathe, and that tunnel comes back out. And then you communicate with your team, and that's all the moving parts. It's making the many things one is the Zen thing. So it's I really like that. So we have a local gun club here that we were practicing at. It was a very old boys club, small town. And I was running drills one day, and I was shooting fast. And these guys, they said, you can't fire full automatic here. And I said, no, it's not full automatic, man. I'm just shooting. But I was running 5-round rhythm drills. And so Canada, you can only have 10 rounds in a mag, right? So I was running 2 hits, and then I dumped the mag and fresh one, but I was going fast. So they were yelling at me about it. I just got pissed off, and I went to the next board meeting, and I put my hand up and said, I'd like to be nominated. And I was a buddy with the guy there and had some credit. with some of the tactical shooters? And they said, sure. And we spent the next 2 years clearing out the old boys club and making it into the range of, we cut them on Facebook. Like they were so in the past, like,
wow.
So it went from 150 members to 450. We've taken it into the modern era. We run courses and things like that. It's just a good community place. We met a lot of friends there, initial friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a ride. It's a great little club to hang out in, but it's a board of directorate that runs it. And it's kind of cool to just, it's your little give back to the community or whatever, but it's part of our community. And, for avid shooters, it's a fun place to go. Like Canada Day is on Wednesday. And we got this annual thing. We all, as families, go and shoot every morning and barbecue in the afternoon. Like, what's not to like about that? Just make cartridge cases.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, in fact, I think the last time I talked to you, you were making cartridges. So that's even more.
Yeah, I've actually stopped taking my range kit out of the back of the car because we're shooting so much now.
Yeah. No, it's okay. That's okay. We're kind of winding down, man, and I just want to touch on a couple things here. But let's talk about what is something people don't know about Mark Soteroff. What do we don't know?
I can tell you now, like the people that know me now don't believe I was a skinny kid.
I can vouch for that. I can vouch for that. So.
I showed up at that place and they were like, "Man, you hired a forklift. This guy's great. It's fantastic." And then I really found out in that community what fitness really was. You're working out with the best of the best, and and a lot of like-minded people without the ego for it. I'm sure there's egos, right? But not like that, where it's like, if you ask the guy, like, what are you doing there? They'll come work out with me. So I got big. Like I that particular unit was nothing but fitness, and I loved it. It was I made more gains in a morning, or and they encourage you, if it's lunch or whatever. Not that we take lunch breaks, but any moment you have free, go work out. Whereas in the conventional army, they go, well, where's Soteroff? Well, he and his guys are at the gym. What are they doing there? They get crazy. Why are they pushing brooms, sweeping hallways? Like, so it's encouraged to be fit, because the more fit you are, the more your body is fit. Your mind can handle traumas. And to backtrack a sec, the doc in Bagram said to me, "Were you awake the whole time when you got lit?" I said, "Yeah, I remember everything." And he goes, "How the fuck were you awake?" They said it was their level of fitness. It's a testament. If you put the energy into your body, your mind will follow. So
it's great advice in life, man. I like that.
It's been that thing that, I mean, I'm not a combat soldier at all anymore. But I still have my rucksack downstairs. I got a weighted vest. When I got pissed off, I put the vest on and I picked that ruck up and I go, there's a Lav monument out at the community center, a couple kilometers away. And I just walk out there. I touch the Lav. I stretch for a minute. Then I take a long way back. So it's about 5K. And then you're just gassed by the time you get in. But, it feels good just to stay fit. And I'm sure I look like that weirdo in town. I'm not the only vet in town, but I'm sure I'm that weirdo walking around with my hiking boots matter. And shorts and this big tack vest on and everything. And so it's a lifestyle and it's good. And I learned a lot from my last unit about how to actually stay fit in both in your mind and body. So
what's your nutrition like?
Last week, terrible, man. If I show you my gut, it's not good. So I mean, I'm working from home right now because of COVID. So I have a full gym out back in this little bunker. The problem is all my guns are back there. So I have to set a timer because I'll see something bright and shiny and start working out. And go, I'm going to put a scope on that. And it's go do the set. So it's the same with my diet. We have a kid in the house, and what kind of candy and treats do kids have? The best kind. So, like if we're watching movies or something, or if I'm not feeling it, like I'll just cook shitty stuff. But I was hunting recently, like turkey season was here. So I got all this turkey in my freezer. So I like cooking a lot. I do all the cooking here.
That's awesome.
So I've been making stews and things like that in my slow cooker and all. So it's, I try to do a lot of meal prep. And it's kind of fun because my daughter's into it. She helps me with it too. And, but I'm not perfect at that stuff. Sometimes I have a shitty week. Sometimes I'm amazing with it. but I'll notice my own body. The weight I could at 46, the weight I could put on pretty fast eating chips and gummies, and because I like junk food a lot. So
makes two of us, man. But you look pretty badass. So yeah, I have a hard time believing you're a junk food guy. So yeah.
Hey man, I got body image issues like everybody else. I hate the feeling of carrying the extra weight, especially at 46. You bend down, go to tie your boots up, and there's this big gut in the way, and it's like, you eat right for 3 months, and that 1 week that you were just dusting it, you come out like a fat pig. So
I can relate.
It's something.
No, that's awesome. Listen, we initially, my last question is usually the beer question. Who would you have a beer with? But you and I talked prior to coming on live. You're a whiskey guy, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, we drink bourbon in this house. Yeah,
I love it. So who is it that? Let me ask you this last question, man. But who is it if you could sit down and have a shot of you've got your your flask there, but who would you like to have a shot of bourbon with?
There's a few, and I probably liken this to the entire my entire class. You remember that crew we hung out with? Afa, Kim, Jason, Leif, Dave, Tina, everybody. If I had my way, it would be that reunion. We haven't had one since 2006. I think we were in New York.
Wow.
And yeah, you know what? I would have all you guys out there, whole TAS crew, everybody's brothers and sisters. That'd be pretty slick. And not just one shot. I think there'd be a whole bunch.
Sign me up, man. Sign me up. That's wow. Yeah, no, I would be there in a heartbeat, man. So I just so you know that. But
yep.
We're coming up on 2 hours, man. I could talk to you forever. I am
Same.
So yeah. It's funny how quickly these conversations go by, but I truly hope man. It's not me just speaking right now, but it's people that are watching, people that know you, people that maybe are new to you. I sincerely thank you for your sacrifice. I know it hasn't been an easy couple of years and whatnot, but you're truly a legend, man. And everything that you've gone through, I'm not even going to try to understand what you've gone through. And I think people are the same way, man. You are a badass. I admire you so much, so, and you can laugh all you want, man. But I know
it's embarrassing. It's all good.
No, but you deserve it. You deserve it. I know, and that's very cool of you to think it's embarrassing. But truly, we have your back. I know this kind of come full circle, but it's the TCK concept too. I mean, you talked about it even before you went into the military. It was almost that military feel that everybody's got their back, and that's what this is about.
Yeah.
This is 100% about you, and I can't thank you enough for your sacrifice and what you've gone through. And I don't know them, but your wife and your daughter, man, I can tell just through your Facebook posts and your Instagram posts, they mean everything to you. And
they're the best. They're the best.
Yeah, I hope maybe one day I'll get to know them, but I know that if they're a part of you, man, they're good people, and
they're amazing.
I truly appreciate everything you've done, everything you've gone through. A lot of us have, had this pretty cushiony life since Taiwan days too. So, and we can't compare with what you've gone through. And I salute you, brother. But thank you for your sacrifice and thank you for doing this. I want to do it again because I think we only kind of hit the iceberg, right? So
I'll say one thing on that is, I appreciate everybody saying you're a hero of this, but I'm honestly this is gonna sound cheesy, but my wife is actually the one that's, she's seen the darker side of all this, and she stayed. And I'm appreciative of that. It hasn't been hasn't been easy on her, and she stayed through all this, and so I'm very lucky. She's put up with a lot of it, and there's some scars on her brain as well. So if you ask me, she's the heroic one. She went through the worst stuff of it. So I'm very appreciative to have her in my life. She's I don't know what I did to deserve that one, because I'm fucking ugly and she's gorgeous. So it's to have a best friend like that is pretty cool.
Well, you just said it. Best friend, man. She's got your back. And like I said, I don't know her, I've never met her, but I can tell just through the pictures. I mean, that love is true, that love is sincere. You guys are awesome. And I truly appreciate you doing this. And yeah, hats off to her as well, because you're right. I mean, like I said, I've never been in your shoes. I don't want to even try to understand what you've been through. But a lot of the times it's the families of those that go off, right?
Yeah,
They're the ones
it's the
that,
worst on it.
yeah, it's almost easier for you to go off and do your job and come back, right? But they go through everything. They go for the ups and downs and in betweens. And yeah, so salute to her too, and your daughter. And so but I can't thank you enough for doing this. I hope you got something out of it too. And
I did, man. Thank you.
Yeah, always, man. Like I said, when I was a kid growing up, you were the one guy that was taller than me, so I had to kind of respect you. So
no, you could have whooped the tar out of me back then, man. I'm telling you, you could have beat the snot out of me easy. I didn't know how to fight. Ask Tim. I didn't know how to fight.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say if Tim,
just slapping.
Yeah,
just slapping.
No, but I can honestly say this for everybody, man. We respect the hell out of you. You're a badass. Thank you for doing this, brother. Stick around. I'm gonna sign off here, but stick around. You and I'll chat right after we end this broadcast. But those of you that are watching, can't thank you enough. I hope you took a lot out of this. Mark, respectfully speaking, my buddy's birthday is today, so I'm gonna go ahead and give him a shout out. Carl Bocott, happy birthday, brother. You were probably waiting on that, but that said, this was all about you, man, Mark, and thank you again for doing this. My best to your wife and your daughter, your family, everybody involved. But let's do this again, man. I hope this was good for you. But
thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, man, and I respect the hell. Just so you know, myself and everybody watching, we respect the hell out of what you're doing even now. PTSD is a sincere thing. I've got buddies here stateside that going through the same thing you're going through, and I know that they respect the hell out of what you're doing too. So the fact that you're giving back, you're still giving back. I want to make sure that people understand that. It's nothing I can understand. It's nothing a lot of people can understand, but it's about that brothership with what you're dealing with, man. We can never put ourselves in that situation, and I totally respect you and honor you, man. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No worries. So those of you that are watching, thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to BenThere on the YouTube channel. I hope you've been entertained, if anything, these last 2 hours. But I also hope you've been educated, because this is kind of a different interview today. But so grateful. And this is one, Mark, I don't even know if I told you this, man. I was actually nervous about this one, not because of you.
So was I.
No, but I want to make sure you understand why I say that, because I respect the hell out of you, man. And it's the more I respect people, the more I'm nervous I get when I do these interviews. So it's something that I truly hope that that people have your back, brother. And
that's wicked.
Yeah, you've done above and beyond, man. And I just can't thank you enough. So I'm going to close it off at that. But those of you watching, reach out to Mark. If you saw, I left his Instagram and his Facebook and his email. Talk to him. Drop him a note. Yeah, these guys need that for sure. They've sacrificed a hell of a lot, and we kind of we get the tail end of that in the easy living, so to speak. So, but Mark, thank you for what you're doing. The rest of you, thanks for watching BenThere.org. Until next time, everybody, be good to each other. It's a crazy world right now. Let's just let's all get along, man, and just look out for each other. Mark, appreciate it, brother. We'll talk to y'all later. Yeah, take care, guys. Man. Let me we'll talk to you in just a second, but there we go. Take care, guys.